you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. And when the earliest things that makes official, welcome to the big show. We certainly appreciate you guys being here. For 16 years and 2,000 plus episodes, we've been bringing you the Chris Voss Show. We intend to do it for another 2,000 episodes in 16 years, and then we'll see if we're tired after that. Anyway, guys, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1, the TikTok, getting Chris Voss, Facebook.com. Today we have an amazing young lady on the show. We're going to be talking about her amazing book that came out September 8th, 2024. It's just darn amazing. That's going to be the callback joke for the show, I think. Amazing. Anyway, her book is entitled Resilience: Picking Up My Shattered Pieces, a journey of finding courage and strength through earthquake moments. Dr. Tristina Anderson joins us on the show. We'll be talking to her insights and everything else. She is a devoted wife, mother, and grandmother who has dedicated her life to transforming the lives around here. We'll find out where here is. Dr. Anderson pursued her academic interests with vigor, first earning an international MBA on finance and accounting, and then a doctoral degree in global business and leadership that laid the foundation for a career marked by excellence and profound sense of purpose. Her professional journey is as diverse as impressive, encompassing roles as an executive, entrepreneur, and visionary leader. Each of these roles is a testament to her ability to relentlessly pursue and help others reach their full potential. She believes that every individual harbors the capacity to achieve greatness. Not sure she's seen all the people on Twitter, but we'll find out from her. And she has a belief that drives her to empower people and live their highest vision. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good, Chris. Thanks for having me on board.
Thanks for coming.
I was going to say here, clearly my education is a testament to my writing skills.
I mean, it wrote well. I just kind of interrupted in a few different places there. So give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on my website at www.unlockyourpowerwithin.ca and Tristina at unlockyourpowerwithin.ca.
So give me a 30,000 overview of what's in your new book.
So it's a memoir, actually, about my trials and tribulations and what I refer to as my life earthquake moments. Yeah, one of the highlighting aspects is in 1996, when I was almost 6 months pregnant, I was diagnosed with HIV.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Good.
But I talk about that time in my life and going through, again, those earthquake moments, building a life of resilience, getting a master's doctorate degree, and building a financial platform.
Wow. That's quite a thing to get, HIV. Do you want to give us some of the details behind that or what it was like to try and survive out of that? And you said, what year was this?
1996, 28 years ago.
Wow. So did they have a lot of the drugs? I guess my other question is, they have a lot of the drugs that you need. You know, now they can really keep people alive, I think.
Now it's considered a chronic illness. But back then, when I was diagnosed, like I said, I was almost 6 months pregnant. My doctor had told me I probably only had a couple years to live, and that my unborn child was only going to have a couple years to live.
Oh, no. Wow.
Yeah. But through, I think, the mindset that I decided to take on, I found some excellent doctors, not the one who gave me my diagnosis, but other doctors at a different facility that provided some positive outlines with health and drugs and stuff like that. And yeah.
You know, you really have to advocate for yourself in the medical industry. I think you're in Canada.
Yeah.
I imagine you have to do the same out there. But here in America, you really have to advocate for yourself because, doctors, you can vary. I mean, I had a dog that years ago that was, they told me you had to be put down in 3 days. And because we moved her to a holistic diet, raw diet, she lived for another year and a half or 3/4. And it was actually her arthritis that killed her instead of the cancer. So it's kind of, if you got to advocate because, not everyone's got all the right ideas, I suppose.
When I was first diagnosed, and actually after I had my son, who I'm happy to say he actually was born HIV negative. So because of the intervention when I found out, so I'm very blessed that
Wow.
he was born HIV negative. But when I was in the hospital back then, they didn't have universal precautions in place. When he was born, they had all these bright red stickers and yellow stickers, and all the doctors and nurses came in with the gowns and everything else because it was a trigger to let them know that I had an infectious disease.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the mindset was a lot different back then than it is today.
So was this the moment that really shaped you and made a difference in your life? You talk about resilience, picking up shattered pieces. Was this your first encounter with a moment that would be challenging for you?
No, I think throughout my whole life, I had some of those. At the time, I thought they were major milestones, but are earthquake moments. My going through a parent's divorce, accidents, like all these other things that we usually kind of encompass when we were younger kids. But no, that was a major impact in my life.
Yeah, I imagine very life-changing. So you journal in your memoir, Resilience, Picking Up My Shattered Pieces, the story of your life and kind of the ways you came out of it, right? And you found your way through the darkness. Tell us a little bit about how you discovered, how to rebuild yourself and to build the tenacity of resilience.
Yeah, there was definitely some stumbles, right? Obviously, every time I, from a health perspective or a life perspective, took a step forward, there was a couple steps back. But eventually I got to a mindset where I just encompassed the fact that I was here for a reason. And whatever attracted this disease to me, I had it, right? And just I ended up getting tied into when my parents got divorced. I just wanted to build a life where I wasn't financially dependent. I was married and didn't want to be financially dependent on somebody else. So I started then with a master's degree, a doctorate degree, built this financial business, became an entrepreneur, consulting and stuff. And then what I realized when I kind of looked back was I wasn't spending the time with my children that I wanted to spend with the health diagnosis that I had. I sacrificed the time with my family to build this economic and business enterprise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's one of the hard things about doing, being independent and making everything successful is trying to do everything yourself.
Go ahead.
No, that was my finishing my thought.
Okay, so I was going to say, we have this conversation about work-life balance. And the definition of balance is equal distribution. So you can't equally distribute your personal life and your work life. It's always a pull, right? It's a teeter-totter, if you will. Yeah. And, I think we kind of set each other up and ourselves up for failure when we always talk about, oh, how's your work-life balance? It's not. There is no balance, right?
It's hard to maintain it. I mean, that's kind of why we have two spouses in the world. It's hard, especially if you're single, to do a work-life balance, especially if you have children, and you're trying to balance those two things. So you went and got a lot of professional accolades to build your knowledge base and everything else. Tell us what you're doing now on your website, unlockyourpowerwithin.ca.
Yeah. So my purpose after I left that, the corporate world, the CEO kind of world is I really kind of found that there was a different purpose that I should be focusing on. So hence why I wrote the memoir. I actually picked up and moved with my kids to Mexico to have more harmony and time with my kids. Left Canada, moved to Mexico. But really now my purpose I find is to help people live their life regret-free.
Yeah. Why is that important?
I think when we look at our lives. And if you look at some of the individuals, when they get to their end of their lives, they talk about, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have loved more. I wish I would have said, I'm sorry. The what ifs in life. I really find that the individuals I want to serve, along with myself, is living that regret-free life. I'm here to play full out.
Yeah. But regrets are, a lot of people don't think about life. They kind of go through life on a lockstep sort of program, robotic sort of mode, and then they wake up kind of midlife when it's half over. A lot of people don't realize 37 is midlife, people. I up until recently, I heard that, and I was like, 50, a midlife crisis, a midlife time. And no, it's really 37. Because the average way of how people live nowadays, it's all that partying, drinking, and eating all those fatty foods. At least that's what we do here in America. I think you guys eat more healthier up in Canada. So you've figured out a way to deal with being resilient, and you can help others go through their process of discovery and pursue a life filled with purpose. Tell us about some of the offerings you have on your website that you do.
Yeah, so I actually have a few different programs. One of the ones I'm most proud of is a 12-month program, Fearless Living, Living Regret-Free. So I have different modules throughout that, and that's really kind of one that I'm the most proud of. I wrote it, it's my curriculum, and it really goes through those different type of chapters in people's lives. When we look at the C-suite or forgiveness or fractured relationships, all those type of things. So that's one of my big ones that I'm really proud of.
What are some of the other things you offer?
I have other smaller programs, 12 weeks, where people really start to get into dream building and living a life they love. If you ask most people, what would you love? If you had a magic wand, what would you like your life to be like? They really don't know. They look at their circumstances or conditions to say, if I had more money, or I had a different education, or I had a spouse, or didn't have my spouse, or all the different things, then I would do A, B, and C, instead of coming from actually what you would actually love and build your life around that. I've worked with a lot of clients who really don't know what they would actually like in their life. We get up. We usually go to university or go to trade school, and then we just do the next thing for the next 40 years, retire, if something hasn't happened, and that's it. Usually health will get you, or something else. You don't actually have the money or the time to travel. So It's getting more control of our lives in advance. Life, as far as we know, we're only here once, so let's enjoy it.
Definitely. You never know what comes after. Nobody knows.
No.
So you might as well enjoy what you have here. I went through that in my life where people used to come up to me. I thought I had what I wanted in life. I had a lot of companies, made a lot of money, kind of lived in a gilded cage. And people come up to me and be like, it's so lovely that you love what you do and you can do what you do. And I'm like, I don't love any of this. It made me realize I didn't love any of it. I mean, I liked it. I love my children, my companies that I had made and built, but I didn't love them. Like, I wasn't passionate to show up to work every day going, ooh, I get to work for a mortgage company, a courier company, and all these other things. I like being an investor. I like being the guy, if you will, but I didn't ever like really being what I did. And so they would look at me and they'd be like, well, what do you want to do? What would you want to do that you would really enjoy? And I'm like, I don't know. So I kind of identify with what you said, and I had to give a lot of thought and think about it. It took me a while. And one day it occurred to me that, I'd love to, maybe when I retire, if I ever retire, go to Wyoming and get a plot of land, maybe run a wolf refuge or sanctuary, or maybe a husky sanctuary. I really love huskies. And so, so I'm looking at those two and seeing what I like, although there's not much money in that is the problem. But I've since found my podcast, and I love my podcast more than anything, and I love talking to people and interviewing people, et cetera, et cetera. I finally found it. But yeah, a lot of people go through life and they don't really know what they want, and they wake up kind of halfway through and they burn half of the life and they go, oh shit, I should probably get my act together.
You know what? Most people actually spend more time planning a vacation once a year than they do actually planning their life. So if you think about that, right? It's like, I want to go to Mexico, or I want to go here. Let's look at all the all-inclusive resorts and get all of our friends and families together. Let's go do this. But if you look at your life in general, most people don't have it planned out. They just get up and they do the same thing day after day after day. It's just the hamster wheel that we sometimes get into.
Yeah, I run big, giant dating groups and coach on dating as well as leadership and stuff. And it's amazing to me how reckless people are with their lives and the things that they choose to do and spend time on. It's just insane when you see how people behave. And you're like, did you do any life planning up until this point? I mean, maybe having, I'm in Utah, so it's like maybe having 10 kids and anticipating that you might get divorced someday because the odds are there. I mean, there are odds on this that, maybe it would be hard to remarket yourself to someone with 10 kids. You didn't think this through very well, did you? But, it's kind of how people roll, I guess. You got to love it. Anyway, I see the number of services you have. You've got the Dream Builder program for group or private coaching. You've got the Life Mastery program for group or private coaching, private one-on-one VIP coaching that you do. Do you want to flesh out any of these programs to us?
Yeah, like I said, I just briefly touched on them. The signature program that I just finished writing, I don't think it's up on the website yet, is that 12-month group project. Actually, I'm going to be looking at no more than 12 individuals. I did a lot of one-on-one coaching, and I found that executives like to be in small, intimate groups with their peers. So they have that, confidentiality that's a little bit more aligned with their visions and goals. So I don't do more than 10 people in my private groups. I find more than that's just too many.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 to 10. Yeah.
There's a good intimacy level and serendipity in around 8 people. We always have in groups. And if you have a diverse group of people, but yeah, it becomes more serendipitous and more intimate. And anytime you get over a certain size, it just becomes, I don't know, unwieldy.
People don't feel like they have an equal voice because as executives and entrepreneurs, and I actually have 2 separate groups because I find their mindsets are a little different. I've been both an entrepreneur and a C-suite, and I actually have 2 separate groups for those because entrepreneurs are everything to everybody sometimes. And C-suite people, individuals focus on what their skill sets are in this particular area. So sometimes they come in together for a joint session so they can brainstorm around most things. But for the most part, they like to stay with their own experience and expertise for their growth. And that's what I end up building my packages around.
Yeah. So what do you find most people that come to you are struggling with? What are your clients usually struggling with, the number one thing?
Regret.
Regrets. Yeah.
In my previous CEO life, I was, what they refer to as a parachute CEO. So the board of directors would terminate their C-suite staff. Myself and other people would come in. We would work with the shareholder, the board of directors, to change the strategic direction, implement whatever they wanted to implement. And then I would usually, as the CEO, recruit my replacement and I'd move on to another client. Mm-hmm. What I found is those individuals within the organizations that just had gotten terminated, they give it their all, right? They're working the 14, 16, 18 hours a day. They've missed their kids' special occasions or anniversaries or doctor's appointments. And I really kind of got into this hamster wheel of this corporate world to say everybody is replaceable. So don't you have to have mutual respect as an organization, even if you're an entrepreneur. But at the end of the day, I had a boss one time many, many years ago that said, the graveyard's full of irreplaceable people. And I've always remembered that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people on the grave, they usually regret not spending a lot of time with their family, don't they? Or people that mattered.
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting. My regrets in life are that I never went to the last Pink Floyd concert that I thought there would be more albums and keep going. And I believe it was the Division Bell. And so that's one of my biggest regrets in life. And then not going to more Rush concerts because I'm a big Rush fan and Neil Peart kind of died. Yeah. wrecked me. Still getting over that. But yeah, not going to enough Rush concerts. Those are my two biggest regrets in life. So you got any ideas on how I can deal with those?
I don't think you can go back in time. I don't think that technology is there.
But we get Neil Peart up on the drums again, zombie drumming. Neil Peart.
When I wake up in the morning, I say to myself, today I'm going to live my best life. Because I think of life almost like an hourglass. We really don't know how much more time we have. I'm going to be 54 years old this year. I know I have less time ahead of me than I have behind me. That's a given at my age. But you don't know how much more time, right? So embrace life, do the scary things, mend past relationships and all those things.
Yeah. There's time is short, man. And, spending your life hating people and that's what I do in my life. Hating people and keeping enemies lists and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
Yep. Can really do it for you. So what else have we talked about on the service you offer or maybe stuff in the book?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to that is actually, you briefly touched on it, Chris, when you were talking a little bit earlier, when people look at your life from an outside lens. And that was one of the reasons I actually kept my HIV diagnosis to maybe 6 people in my life, excluding my doctors, up until I released it about 2 months ago. And the reason why I did that is people looked at my life from the outside in. I still live in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, travel back and forth, had onto businesses. I actually owned an airline in Canada. I was a CEO of another airline. So I've done a lot of different things, spoke on international stages, and people would look at my life and they would make different comments. I wish I had the things that you had. And I would think of myself, if you only knew. And that was one of the reasons, that was probably the biggest reason why I wrote the memoir, to disclose that, to say we all have sad stories, if you will. And it doesn't matter what kind of the cards that you've been dealt, you can still build a life that you absolutely love, regardless of whatever circumstances you've been dealt with. And I thought it was important to share, to be vulnerable and put that forward, say, yeah, this is the outside of me that you see, but there's an inside too that had to go through the trials and tribulations and the earthquake moments.
Yeah. And it can make all the difference in the world in what you do and how you do it. So as we go out, tell people how they can onboard with you, tell them how they can reach out with you. Is there a prospective client that you usually work with? Like, do they need a certain net worth or anything?
No, I think I work with CEOs, the C-suites, and the entrepreneurs. We all kind of have these things that we want to, get out of the regret areas. So anybody can just go to my website, unlockyourpowerwithin.ca. They can send me an email. If they want to pick up my book, they can go to www.resiliencebook.ca. That my memoir is there. They can grab that, and there's links in there as well to follow me if they so choose.
Oh, so thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris, for having me.
Pick up the book, folks, wherever fine books are sold. It's out September 8th, 2024. It's called Resilience, Picking Up My Shattered Pieces, a journey of finding courage and strength through earthquake moments. Definitely a momentum sort of book where you can change your life and not have regrets. Those are the fewer regrets you can make in life, the better. And it's best to pre-plan so you don't make so many. And go to the Pink Floyd concerts when they come available, people. As if they ever will. Anyway, guys, thank you, Tristina, for coming on the show. Thanks to Minus for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1, the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time. And that's